Here we have a problem on compound interest. Okay, let's go over the given information. Kyla deposits money in bank A with 3% annual interest compounded yearly. Meanwhile, Irene deposits 25% less than Kyla in bank B, which also compounds interest yearly. If after 5 years both have the same amount in their accounts, what is the annual interest rate for bank B? So they are asked us to find the rate of interest at which Irene deposits her money in bank B. So since it's a problem on compound interest, we can use a formula to find the final value of the deposit in compound interest. Let me write the formula over here. That is A equals to P times 1 positive R over N raised to the power of N times T. Okay, now let's understand the components of this formula. So this A represents the final value of the deposit after some years, and this P represents the principal or initial deposit. This R represents the rate of interest in decimal, and this N represents the number of times interest is compounded in a year, and this T represents the number of years for which the amount is deposited. Okay, so according to the given information, after 5 years, let me write the stuff over here. So after 5 years, so the both of them, that is Kyla and Irene, both of them have the same amount of money in their bank accounts after 5 years. Okay, now let's find the final value of the deposit for Kyla, that is after 5 years. So for that, we have to plug in the required values in this formula. So the principal, it's not given for both Kyla and Irene. So, but there is an information, that is Irene deposits 25% less than Kyla. So how much Kyla deposits? That is not given. So since the initial deposit is not given, so we can assume that Kyla deposits $100. So the value of P over here is 100. It's just our assumption because this value is not given, times 1 positive. And this R gives a rate of interest in decimal, and for Kyla in bank A, the rate of interest is 3%, but we have to write this one in decimal form. When I convert this 3% to decimal form, I am getting 0.03 because 3% can be written as 3 over 100. When I divide 3 by 100, I am getting 0.03. As I said already, N represents the number of years the interest is compounded per year. So the information says in both bank A and bank B, interest is compounded yearly. That is, once in a year, the interest is compounded. Since the interest is compounded once in a year, the value of N is just 1. We can plug in 1 for N. And here again, we can plug in 1 for N. And this T represents the time period for which the amount is deposited. The question says 5 years. So we have to plug in 5 for T. So this is the final value of the deposit for Kyla after 5 years. Now let's find the final value of the deposit for Irene after 5 years. So here, what has to be the principal for Irene? The information says Irene deposits at 25% less than Kyla. So already we have assumed Kyla has deposited $100 because it is not given how much Kyla has deposited. We just assumed $100 as the initial deposit of Kyla. So if Irene deposits 25% less, then we have to calculate 25% less less of this 100, that is 75. So the deposit of Irene is $75 in bank B times 1 positive. So R is the rate of interest, but that is not given. That is what we have to find according to the question in bank B. So we can write R as it is, and N represents the number of times interest is compounded per year. So for in bank B also, the interest is compounded yearly. That is, once in a year the interest is compounded. So we have to plug in N is equal to 1 raised to the power of again N is equal to 1 times the value of T is the time period, that is 5 years. Okay, now let's do some simplification. 100 positive 1 positive 0.03 over 1 is just 0.03 raised to the power of 1 times 5 is 5. Then we get 75 1 positive R raised to the power of 5. 1 times 5 is 5. So then we get 100 times 1.03 raised to the power of 5 equals to 75 times 1 positive R raised to the power of 5. Now we can divide both sides by 75. Let me do it. So when I do, so this 75 and 75 will cancel out. I'm getting 100 times 1.03 to the 5th power divided by 75 equals to 1 positive R to the 5th power. Okay, now to solve for R, I have to get rid of this exponent 5. So for that, I have to raise both sides of this equation to the power of 1 over 5. So let me do it. Raise it to the power of 1 over 5. So now 100 times 1.03 to the 5th power over 75 4 to the power of, and we can simplify this 1 over 5. When I divide 1 by 5, I'm getting 0.2. So equals to, so here we have exponent 5 for one positive r, and for the complete stuff we have 1/5 as exponent. So whenever we have two exponents like this, what we can do is we can multiply the two exponents, then I'm getting 1 positive r to the power of 5 times 1 over 5. So this 5 will cancel the exponent over here becomes 1. Okay, now what we can do is we can evaluate the expression over here. So for that, what I have to do is I have to evaluate the value of this power, that is 1.03 to the fifth power, and whatever result I am getting, it has to be multiplied by 100, and that result has to be divided by 75, and the final result has to be raised to the power of 0.2. So let me do everything at one time. So first let me calculate the value of 1.03 raised to the fifth power. When I do so, I am getting 1.1592. I'm getting a very long decimal for 1.03 raised to the power of 5. Now I multiply that result by 100, then I divide it by 75. So then I'm getting 1.5456, and it keeps going. It has to be raised to the power of 02. So for this expression, this is the result. So it is raised to the power of 0.2. On the right side, we have 1 positive r. Okay, now let me evaluate this one. That is, this value has to be raised to the power of 0.2. Let me do it. When I raise it to 0.2, I am getting 1.091, and it keeps going. I can round it to 3 decimal places, equals to 1 positive r. Now to solve for r, I subtract 1 from both sides. When I do so, I am getting 0.091 on the left side. So on the right side we have r. So I got the value of r. So now we have the value of r in decimal form. So to convert this one to percentage, what I have to do is I have to multiply this decimal by 100. When I multiply 0.091 by 100, I am getting 9.1%. So the annual interest rate for bank B is 9.1%.